Well, good morning and welcome. This is the third session this week. Hope you've been here for all of them. If not, check out my SelfRecruiter YouTube channel, just YouTube/SelfRecruiter, better way to say it. All of the things are there live under the live tab. So we started out the week on Tuesday with reaching out to the decision maker, all the ways where you can essentially get yourself right in front of that person that will decide your fate rather than being filtered out through HR or other mechanisms. Yesterday, we did a lot of interesting talk. So hopefully you check out yesterday's lecture as well. That was charting your career transition when you're so done with whatever I've been doing. And now what? That lecture will take you through how you reinvent yourself. Well, today is a very, very interesting one. Let me just switch my screen so I can control it. There we go. I think I should have it now. There we are. Today is a very, very interesting one. You can see all of them here. You can pause as necessary. Today, we're going to build a social media marketing campaign. So if you've built out your LinkedIn properly, what you have in my view is the polar opposite of your resume. Resume, in my view, is a single sheet of paper that captures the essence and value of your career on a single sheet that makes them, as they're droning out, going through all these resumes, oh, get them in here, get them on the phone. I have to speak with them. That's the proper reaction to a really great resume. So once you achieve that on a single sheet resume, how do you take that as the structural backbone framework over to LinkedIn and now transform that into a full three-dimensional sales brochure all about you? That's my LinkedIn lecture. Be sure to check that out. Today is really the part 2 to my LinkedIn lecture. Once you have a great LinkedIn, well, now what? What am I supposed to do with it? How do I use it as a marketing tool? We'll walk you through how you're going to build this marketing campaign for yourself, all the details. And it takes about 2 hours of homework and then just 2 minutes out of your workday or your job search day, whether you're currently working or currently just looking for that new opportunity. So this is Career Evolution with LinkedIn and social media marketing. Let's jump ahead. Or we might have another title. Now that I have a great LinkedIn profile, now what? What do I do with it? Well, we're going to walk you through each step today. Or maybe there's even another one. How do I take control of my career story? How do I shift the feeling for the level of value that I bring? How do I make sure I am seen a different way? If you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker, resume and LinkedIn guru as well. So if you're suffering, as most are, from really very poor storytelling across your resume, across your LinkedIn profile, if it's not elevating you and opening up the level of opportunity, the level of compensation, the level of responsibility you should be getting, work with someone that can significantly elevate your brand. Check out my SelfRecruiter website. All my services are under the services tab. And if we need to chat before you know which package is right for you, send me a quick email. That's john@selfrecruiter.com. Send me a quick email. We'll set up a time to talk. Don't just sit there being undervalued. Now, we're going to show you a lot of different things today. These are actually part of social media as well, but these are some assets and tools that will help you. Check out from my LinkedIn profile. You can click on my articles to get to a number of articles that will help you overcome whatever challenge it is you're facing. We're going to start today with this short little video, then I'll come right back. I'm John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about using LinkedIn and getting the best out of social media marketing. Your business is built on perception. Perception of the products or the services or of your reputation. Business today is judged by web presence, not just a business's website. In our traditional work life, we didn't hesitate to network with the right people when an opportunity arose. That chance to meet the right people that could help our career. But as a small business owner, sometimes it's all you. It becomes easy for us to prioritize networking away. Oh, not today. Until it's never on today's list. We have so many other hats to wear if we are to reach our dreams. And those other hats are certainly more important. More important. It's important for every small business person to network, to open doors that you may not have even imagined yet. You need to be reaching and communicating with current and potentially new customers or clients. You need to be out there contributing to the discussion about you. And with focus, it takes much less time than you really think to be effective. But you do have to take control. You have to develop your LinkedIn profile into a 3-dimensional sales brochure, all about you, that naturally drives the reader to a singular conclusion. If I work with, hire, or buy from this person, it's the best business decision I'll make today. Then make use of social media marketing tools built into LinkedIn to be sowing your value across the network in updates, postings, and other shares that influence the perception of you. Well, there's much more to share as we're just getting started. Now imagine that you have this great communication platform. By the way, that's your great LinkedIn profile that positions both you and your business professionally and effectively. And think about the effects of using and implementing a sharing on a schedule or editorial calendar to simplify your messaging. That's a powerful voice to be heard that affects perception. What would you want others to be thinking of when they are thinking of you? That's the important question. Well, hopefully you didn't find it too distracting when it said your business, your business. You know, that's an interesting piece I put together a few years ago for Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business program. And it's really the same thing. You have something to manage right now, your career brand, you have to manage forevermore. It's the same thing as managing the perception for your business. So just swap out that your business to your career brand, and it's exactly the same challenge. How do we use these tools to elevate our spotlight, center us on the stage, and really get that attention that we're looking for? The whole lecture series, especially the 3 this week, are all about becoming a self-recruiter. How is it I'm going to become one great recruiter that looks after one great candidate, which is also you? And we're going to do it in a variety of ways, but primarily it'll be through expanding our network. That's really the proper use of LinkedIn significantly. And then keeping one eye on the toughest competitor imaginable. Those 4, 5, 6 people that they'd scare you out of going after that job. Oh, they're getting the job. Forget it. Those scary people, we can beat them very, very easily, because in actuality, they suffer from ego and arrogance, and they really don't prepare. They get dressed and I'm prepared. I'm like, you got dressed. We all had to get dressed. That's not actual preparation. A little bit of thought and planning and strategy, you can outmaneuver them in almost every case. So as we talked a little bit about yesterday, and we'll talk a lot about in the LinkedIn lecture, so be sure to watch that, we really have to freshen up our career story, and we're going to do it with this digital self-marketing campaign. So yes, first get your LinkedIn profile up to speed so it's presenting you in the best light possible. Remember, it's not confessional, but everything there has to be absolutely letter true. Leave out any part of the story you'd like to leave out. Make sure to include all the very best points, the ruby, the diamond, the emerald, the nugget of gold, drop of perfume, all of those things. This collection about you and the things that we'll share today in the social media campaign, it's really how you take control of the discussion. What are people saying about you? What do they think about you? How do I create engagement, which is a lot closer to that type of engagement than the mechanical style. So we're going to use social media. This is really talking about in terms of LinkedIn today, but you can apply this to many other platforms. What other platforms you're using? you can likely manage 2 or 3 without losing all your time. Keep in mind, your time is the only really resource that you have. It's important that you manage it carefully because that is so, so important. So there's new social media platforms almost every week. Don't get drawn into too many, but find 2 or 3 that can each showcase some aspect of what you bring to the table and manage those in a very, very interesting way. Now, let me just share a few things to put social media into perspective. Twitter, or X. Here I am eating a donut. Okay. Facebook, I like those donuts. Well, used to be. Foursquare, I don't know who's using Foursquare any longer, so we kind of bypass that one. Instagram, well, here's a picture of my vintage donut years ago. This begins to showcase for you how social media evolves and changes very, very quickly, or YouTube or LinkedIn or Pinterest or any of these things. So adaptability is very, very important too, because all of these channels are really influence platforms. The more information you have access to, the more you can leverage it to your benefit. But now we're going to reverse that concept we talk about in the LinkedIn lecture, and we're going to seed information about ourselves out to these networks that people will see over and over and over, which is advertising. This is advertising, short little advertisements about you, by really letting people look over your shoulder to see what you're reading, doing, sharing, attending. That's all about your profession or the new direction or whatever it is you'd like to do to lift your brand. So the other reasons we need to use social media, even though it gets a bad rap, but we have to be there unless we'd like to be left in the dust. It's where the people are. It's where the connections are. It's where the decision makers are. If we can get people to start talking about us, it's a little bit of lighting a brush fire and it taking off. Look at the second from the bottom there. That's almost the most important one. With seemingly no contact with others or no real contact with others, we can stay right on the top of the people's minds in our own company, up the food chain, maybe even into another company that we're desiring to get into. Sorry, a little bit of heartburn. I need a little bit of a soda to counter all that coffee today. So it's a huge leveling of the playing field, being able to influence how people think about us. In terms of social media profiles, using multiple profiles beyond LinkedIn, you have to think about how you're going to balance each one of those, what each one should look like. One can't overrule the other, but they also shouldn't simply be a duplicate of each other. They have to somehow work in harmony, just like the instruments in an orchestra. They have to work together to lift your brand. So for each platform you're using, make sure to ask the right questions. And that's, well, certainly are my target markets using this platform? What can I gain from this platform? Why should I be using it? What are my goals? And what do I really hope to achieve? And that should influence then what you decide to share across those individual platforms as well. We're this product, and we have to think about that product and think about how that can be affected by the positioning on the shelf space, by the lighting it gets on that shelf space, all the things that could change the equation. A little bit more soda. So if we have to go back and tell our story, if we have to go back and share things to influence, we have to figure out and have a really firm grip on what we think we do better than other people, or how we're going to be that standout in our field. I do want to point out that 8, 10, 12, 15 years, whatever it might be in the same role, that does not make you an expert. It makes you an expert at doing something one way. But I see a lot of people in their career that have been with one company for this kind of length of time. And while there's a certain wow, look at what I have. What a great asset and track record here. I'm like, yes. But I hope you learned the right way to do it in all those years. Because if you learned the wrong way to do it, you didn't learn any perspective. I don't think you grew quite as much as someone that had 3 different interesting companies and that experience over that same time frame. So don't be scared away by these people. These people are defective in their own way because they've been siloed for so long and they're living in a little bit of a bubble. Now, as we put together the social media marketing campaign, just like we had spoken about yesterday, you really have to become the content guru of you. And that means we can reframe or retake or realign whatever we'd like, to correct our trajectory in our career, correct a misstep or two, even drop off some piece of our background if we'd like to. The biggest thing about getting ready to do a social media share plan is you have to make it visual. People respond to visuals, and the collection of visuals have to work together. So in a perfect world, I think you need to be using LinkedIn and also probably using X or Twitter, whatever we'd like to call that. Notice how these two profiles look similar, yet not identical. I may use the same profile shot, but really they're still a little different. And then imagine your content flowing across. I'm gonna let you watch this flow across here for a second. I was already on my second cup of coffee. I guess it was too much. So as you see here, I exert a lot of branding control, and full disclosure, my other half is a creative director. So I certainly have absorbed a lot over the years. But even though I'm in all of these because I'm a public speaker, well, you don't have to be in yours, but you do have to exert a little bit of branding control, have a certain style of what you present. When you go to events, taking those shots that you're going to use at some point. And you have to let all these things flow across your multiple channels so they can influence other people. And that means back to the idea of having a good idea or through shot for ourselves. What is it we want them to think about us? How am I going to showcase that and really raise that up to a level that will make things a little bit different? So let's think about how we want them to see us. What is the result that you're after? Well, of course, they need to see us as passionate, driven, with a lot of ability, authoritative, all those things. Hopefully the future of their company would be very, very important. And we want to be not only cookie cutter perfect, not just cookie cutter perfect. Oh, I'll be cookie cutter perfect. Well, great. If you're only that, I'll take number 2. I'm going to pay you less. Yeah, no, you don't want less? Okay, I'll take number 1, number 5, doesn't matter. Cookie cutter perfect, interchangeable. You have to accomplish both of these things, be cookie cutter perfect and also be exceptional with the small little changes in what you share and how you showcase yourself. So what qualities do you want them to see? How are you going to showcase that in what you select and share? How are you going to demonstrate what drives you, what makes you tick, what you're passionate about, what you love to do? Hopefully living and breathing your profession or the new profession, whatever you'd like to do. And then we're going to do strategic sharing on all of this. Let's get into the plan itself and how to develop it. It's much easier than you think. It takes about 2 hours of basic homework. So after today's lecture, you're really going to sit down tonight or whenever you have the free time to do it, and you're going to build this plan. So we're going to social media market our way to the new job. We're going to think about those platforms itself. We have to get the credit where credit is due just by associating ourselves with the right articles or books or events or the projects we've worked on, or all of these things that could be transformative, the level of results, all the things that are really different ways of being able to speak about yourself and how you bring something to the table. And we're going to let all of that flow across, in terms of LinkedIn, across this 3-level network, showcasing how we're adaptable, how we're different. This is all part of our brand management, our authenticity, how we're going to be our true selves. Now, if you were listening to the lectures in the last couple of days, I also mentioned to you that I am, at the same time, I'm this individual that you see. I'm also shy and introverted, which makes my friends, like spit out their coffee. Am I being disingenuous because I'm not showing that to you? Of course not. This is also who I am here. So if you need to give yourself permission to own it, drink enough of the Kool-Aid so that you're ready to present yourself, well, that's part of proper brand management and understanding that perception is reality. A little bit earlier, I was out on the waterfront here in New York getting some cardio in, and I'm in 5-finger shoes and tights and running down the next to the water. And if I showed up here like that, I don't think you'd be taking my advice. So here again, what do you expect? You expect this, and it has to match perception. So in terms of how you decide to present yourself, just change perception by changing a little bit of the reality around you and the visuals around you. Let's get right down into creating the social media plan itself. We're going to build 25 to 30 content items, much simpler than it really seems. Let's imagine we open up a Word document. This is part of the little magic that comes together. We're going to open up a Word document, And maybe what we'll do is we'll begin, could be word, text, anything you'd like. We're going to begin to build this list that once we're done, we can wake up tomorrow and we can go copy, paste, share. Took 15 seconds. Second cup of coffee, copy, paste, share. Lunchtime, copy, paste, share. Afternoon, coffee hound, copy, paste, share. End of the day, copy, paste, share. That's 2 minutes out of the total day once we do the 2 hours of homework. So the first step is to build this content list. And we're going to mix this content list up with a mix of articles and books and things going on in the industry events, and really get in a pattern of sharing 4 to 6 times a day, just like breathing. So it becomes much, much easier. And it is not this like, oh, what will I share next? And I've lost half my morning. So let's drill down into each of these areas and teach you the details. In terms of articles, we're going to go to Google. We're going to click the news tab. We're going to put in a few keywords about our industry or about a company's name or a challenge going on in your industry. And what you're going to come up with are articles centered on either the challenge, the industry, the company itself. And that's how you begin to pin or associate yourself with that. If you don't find the right thing there about what's going on and what the buzz is all about, well, check out the company's press releases. They often tout different initiatives and things going on that you can champion. Grab the URL for whatever it is you decide to share. Put it on your text document. In front of that, we're going to go back and copy the title for whatever that article was. I'm going to put it in front of the URL. I'm also going to put quotations around it so that I can grab it very, very easily. It's one of the ways to make it seamless for your user. So that's what we do in terms of articles. Now let's move on about adding books to the list. If I'm going to add books to the list, I'm going to go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble, whatever you'd like. I'm going to look up the book's name. Really, what is it that you should be reading? What are the best of the best reading in your field? If you'd like to go to a new field, what are all the hot books for that field? Go find those books, copy the URL, grab the title, put the title in quotes, put the title in front of the URL. We're going to show you that here in a minute, and begin to filter in some of these books. Now, if you haven't read the book yet, I could say, so excited to start reading with the title. If you've read the book, what a great take on this, or what a great book on that. Just make sure that if you're sharing a book and you haven't read it yet, you need to hurry up and read it, because you may meet someone in conversation that goes, oh, I love that book. What about chapter 4? Oh, I wish I'd read that book. So we do have to read these books. It's not simply a facade. Continuing on to build our 25 to 30 items, we want this nice, healthy mix of different types of content. So we have to bring in industry events. Whatever industry you're in, or whatever industry you'd like to be in, all the events for the next 30, 60, 90 days, they already exist now, and they already have a website. So we're going to tackle that buzz that's going on all around these things and what the story is. So we go to the event website, we grab the URL, we grab the copy of the title of the event, and suddenly now, very short order, with just 4 or 5 books, 4 or 5 events, 4 or 5 articles that we might pull, and maybe a few other live things that you might see from a day-to-day operation, you realize that you're going to suddenly have all sorts of content to share. But these are the basics. You have to think like a storyteller. You have to make it interesting. If you don't add, say, 4, 5, 6 words of your opinion, it really doesn't stick to you. You're just a random sharer. Because when you share, they have to see you, your 4, 5, 6 words of opinion. They have to see the title quickly. They have to see the visual, which comes in automatically from the URL. That's part of the beauty of this entire system. So it's your job to set that stage, put them in your shoes, have them looking out of your eyes. And that means I've got to have rose-colored glasses. Everything I say must be letter true, but I have to have some rose-colored glasses in this. In terms of the articles especially, let me point out that we're not looking for perfect articles. Oh, I'd love one. I'd love one. I'd love one. But you can't wait half a year to find the perfect article, because so many articles are flawed. What you're looking for is the perfect article attached to the right topic. So as long as they're on the right topic, the article itself can be good, bad, or ugly, and we'll show you how to handle that. But you want the right topic being a dead bullseye in terms of articles. Now, to take it to the next step, now that I have the names of whatever the article or book or event is in quotes, I have the URL behind it. Now what I have to do is add 4, 5, or 6 words of my opinion in front of it. Let's take a best practices technical white paper. I always like those kinds of things. If we don't know what that is, we can just Google that very quickly, best practices technical white paper. But it's a how-to, the best practices on whatever it is it's all about. So if you'd like to see yourself as the best of the best in your field, you better go find a best practices technical white paper all about whatever it is you do. By the way, you don't have to write that. You could, you don't have to write that. Lots of them exist. Go find one, good, bad, or ugly, just like articles, really doesn't matter. And share it with your opinion. If I liked it, I could simply say, what a great take on best practices for exactly what I do with a link. Not sure I agree with best practices for exactly what I do with the link. Really didn't like it, really think it's hogwash. Couldn't disagree more with best practices for exactly what I do with a link. Good, bad, or ugly, you can go any which way. So it's not about finding the perfect article. It's really about finding the perfect topic connected to that article so you can react to it. Now, what do these things look like? Because really it's advertising when it's effective, and these are all miniature advertisements about you, are very, very simple. So here's how it all assembles together. Oh, what a great take on best practices for team management. If I want to showcase how I know all about team management, followed by that URL. Now, the beauty of attaching the URL, will automatically pull in the visual, where you have a bunch of visuals to showcase for you coming up that you can see as examples. But those are only some of the things. You could also talk about projects you've worked on, or accomplishments, or all educational piece in your background that you're expanding. There's all sorts of other ways to speak about yourself. The core items become these 25 to 30 article book event, then mix in a little bit of your own content. And that's how it really becomes that extra layer of magic. Now, in sharing this, there's a nuance involved. There's a finesse involved. Each of these are figurative little nudges to move the needle of perception about you. So let's take you through how a number of these might look. Here up on the left, this was a number of years ago. I think I mentioned this one yesterday, actually. This was up on stage at Rainbow Push Wall Street Project, standing next to Reverend Jesse Jackson. And, you know, I pinch myself going, how did I get here? How did I get here? It's 5 career coaches, and I'm the only non-African-American on stage. I'm the only male on stage. How did this happen? How did this happen? By opening doors. Life is not transactional. Well, if I do this, John, what do I get? I don't know. But I do know what you're going to get if you do the same thing over and over. So you have to do something different. And I opened enough doors that suddenly somebody called me up in the middle of my workday and said, hey, I'm thank you for the lectures, by the way. I got my new job. I'm over here in Chicago. I'm going into our headquarter offices for Rainbow Push, and I'd like to take your book into the room. I'm like, what's your address? I'm running out to FedEx right now. I can connect the dots very, very quickly. I sent them off the book. I literally dropped what I was doing and ran to FedEx. And 6 months later, suddenly I found myself up on stage, and there I am. Now, opportunity in life happens all at the same time. The good, the bad, the ugly, everything happens together. That's the same week my father was passing away in hospice at 91 years old, and flying down to Florida on the weekends to see him, everything else. And I like that picture being very, very small because I was extremely stressed. But opportunity is knocking. I think you already know I'm on a green screen here. Opportunity is knocking. I have to answer that opportunity. So even though I only got 2.5 hours sleep, this was my chance. And so I'm up on stage and I have to present and I have to capture their attention. And, you know, I got the very first question and I got 30 to 35% of all of the questions. So just because you're having a bad day or week or everything else, you can't let opportunities slip by. On the top right, I got invited by a radio show host over to the Google headquarters during Social Media Week. Got a call going, oh, you going to see the keynote at Google? I'm like, absolutely, absolutely. When is it? Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, love to. You know, this was in February of that year. And February is one of my busiest months of the year. I can barely find time to sleep working with clients. But of course, I'm not going to miss an opportunity to spend time with a radio show host that could book me on the air. And I'm like, great, I'll meet you there. And then they didn't show up. Another day, I had about 2.5 hours sleep. But I'm listening to the keynote. Wasn't giving it. Wish I was. But I'm listening to the keynote. And suddenly this guy goes, the real world is insufficient. I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Wait a minute. Or that's what I'm trying to say for a long, long time. It's not good enough to just be very good at what you do. You have to manage the perception of that so other people really realize it. And so I shared that, and it affects perception. A couple articles got featured in AM New York and some other places. Not uplifting articles by the titles, but they're right for what I do, of course. This is what your shares begin to look like and how they influence other people. Here I am up at WHCR, Voice of Harlem Radio, but up there 4 or 5 times for a 2-hour drive time in the morning. That's 6 to 8 in the morning. The radio show host really does not prepare anything in advance. It's all off the cuff, which I really do like that style. I can take advantage of it. But you have to get up at 3:30 in the morning to get there by 6 o'clock, because I have to get all freshened up and have the time in the bathroom. I have to make a breakfast because I have to eat. And then I got to get myself up there, find parking, and slide into that chair and put the headphones on by 6 a.m. So you have to think about how that affects perception. Up in Albany, asking for library funds to support the library. Nothing coming to John out of that one, but simply for the public, for the safety net of the library system. Getting featured in AM New York again, that's always a lot of fun. So begin to think about all the ways that you can showcase things, whether it's different articles, different events, or breaking the record for the attendance record at the New York Public Library for a regularly scheduled lecture. Very competitive, maybe shy and introverted, but I'm very competitive, always want to win. Or talked about this one yesterday as well, getting showcased in Essence magazine. Really thought I was getting punked when I got this call. They're like, "You're in Essence magazine this month." I'm like, "What? Who is this? Who is this?" But maybe I should go look. And tracked it down. It was a little bit hard to find, not only because bookstores were disappearing or magazine stores were disappearing, but because Brock was on the cover. It was a hot item. And here's my book right there on the reading list. The shorter gal is the gal that got me into the lecture. Simply another example of opening doors, because as I step outside of my lectures at the New York Public Library onto the sidewalk, I answer all the questions until all the questions are done. And some gal says to me, "I'm blogging about my job search for Essence magazine." I'm like, "You should have a copy of my book." I can connect those dots. And a few months later, here it shows up on the reading list. Now she's pictured talking to some other career coach, but there's my book on the reading list. So whatever it is that might open doors, or landing myself on Arise TV with a great segment because I opened doors again, which then exposed me to working with great producers and all those kinds of things. It all comes from this type of self-promotion. You have to drink enough of that Kool-Aid that you're ready to do the promotion piece that you have to. And that means, even though if it seems distasteful to you, and it certainly did to me, although I've gotten over it, as you can tell, that means getting up and going copy, paste, share, copy, paste, share, copy, paste, share. Now, a few years back, I was giving this lecture at the New York Public Library, and after giving it, I was sharing the next day. And then one of the people who was at my lecture direct messaged me going, "Could you share less?" And I'm like, "Gosh, and you were just in my lecture." And I had to explain to them, first off, that is a setting on their end. I have no control over where it's going. It just goes out to the feed, and the algorithm determines who should have interest. But very, very interesting. Now, we can't share less, but people can tune in or tune out. All this is influence, and you're influencing far beyond the pool that you really realize. Here's a few other shares to show things. I'm not even in this one, and yet it's a picture of an event that I did for Morgan Stanley, and shared that, of course. I'm doing an event for, it's a little too small for me to even read from here, but I was doing a Green Home New York or something like that, doing an event for them on LinkedIn and social media. And of course, I shared that event. Here I am doing a boot camp that I typically do about 2 or 3 times a year. It's a live boot camp. And I was doing it over the internet, obviously, just like we're doing now, and talking to the audience and everything else. And somebody captured this shot. And I know my dad would have liked this. He was a Catholic deacon. I saw him in that pose many, many times. And I shared that. And he realized suddenly got a lot of hits out of that. Or up at WHCR, Voice of Harlem Radio. Now notice I didn't even get in this shot. My coffee and my book got in this shot. Another vehicle to talk about things. All of these things collect in two places. Well, they collect in one place automatically and a second place if you turn on that option. The first place they collect is all in your activity box. Now, I was just working with a client earlier this week, going over their LinkedIn profile. They really had not been a very active user before, and I just reinvented the whole thing and built out a sales brochure for them that showcased all of the visual things that they do as a designer in their career. I'm like, how could you have not been using this? But they were one of those folks that had been in their role for quite some time, and they didn't think it was necessary. They'd always gotten their roles just through word of mouth. And years later, now it's a different market. You have to showcase yourself. You have to put yourself out there. So built out this really great showcase for them, and almost miniature portfolio of their work, everything else. And we're looking at their activity box, and it's empty. Activity box shows everything you've done in the last 90 days. It's empty. They don't really know whether you got hit by the bus. You might have gotten hit by the bus and just not have memorialized your account or given someone access. So will I get a tissue? And I don't even know if you're available. This is how we know whether we're active or living and breathing our profession. By the way, you can be passionate and living and breathing your profession, whether someone's paying you or not paying you. It has nothing to do with, I don't have a job right now. So did you lose your mojo for your career? Why would I want to hire you if you lost that? So everything will collect in the activity box. But now there's something you can also do, and that is in the advanced settings, you can turn on a featured box, which appears above the activity box, and you can showcase very large displays. Now, this is actually an old screenshot. I know it says posts. The posts now just show up as little tiny stacked feeds, very, very like, ooh, there it is. And above it is a larger box like this now called featured, and it will feature up to 3 large visuals. So once you've posted everything, you can go into each one of your posts, and under the ... you can simply toggle it and go, oh, feature on the top of my profile. And so you can control what's up here so that your visitors are drawn into the visuals, and that helps create interest for you. Plus, it also expands your LinkedIn profile, so it's much, much more visual for you. A few other shares. You can also share long form articles. Now, a number of years ago now, I decided to get myself in shape. I was not really ever out of shape, other than not in shape. I've always been kind of a skinny guy, about 6'1", always kind of skinny. And I decided, well, I'm getting older, at least in those days. I better make sure I am healthy as I move deeper into the mature section. And I started to do a cardio program, doing essentially 1 hour a day of extremely fast walking, not running, because, tough on the knees, everything else, but extremely fast walking, as fast as you can walk for an hour long straight. That's about a 14 or 15 minute mile. And if you can keep that up in that pace for a full hour, I can guarantee you that's some pretty good cardio. And the first thing that happened to me, besides my energy levels changing everything else, was I dropped 20 pounds of fat that I didn't even realize I had. I'm like, it just like fell off my body so quickly. Long story to tell you that I wrote this article that really staying committed to a health regimen, an exercise regimen, is very similar to staying committed to a proper job search plan. They take commitment and energy. And so I wound an article, longer form article together, all about those, but losing the 20 pounds of fat in your job search and career. And these long form articles, you can post right on LinkedIn. They go into a newsletter format, and you can showcase and place those things as well. Imagine if you are an expert in your field and you wrote 3, 4, or 5 of these long form articles, which are essentially an audition or an interview for your next role. Why not share 2 or 3 different or 4 aspects of yourself and explain to a public audience your thoughts on the best practices for some direction in what it is that you do. Those become really interesting things that you can use as marketing and promotion as you approach companies. Also, it's a great effect on shifting the view of how you are. Hey, thank you for commenting in. I always appreciate those things. Let's take you through a little bit of a setup of how you might construct other things going on with you that can become shares as well. Maybe you just finished a project on some sort of project that is sellable. That's a great thing to do as well. Or you're selected for some new initiative, maybe digital content development. All that can be really great for you and really help. Maybe you're a member of a cost containment and reduction committee. Well, not going to be a very popular individual, but very necessary, very necessary. So, all of those things can be very, very important too. Maybe there's other stuff going on. Maybe you're reading a great book on social media marketing, An Hour a Day by Dave Evans. Now, I don't usually mention other people's books. I like that SelfRecruiter book, but this is actually, if you want to learn like hour by hour lessons, this is really a great book, one I responded to myself. I love it. You can talk about and share that you're reading that and lift up people's perception of you. By the way, social media marketing skills are very useful in almost every job, not necessarily finance, because there's some definite rules around that, but most of the other jobs, it is seen as quite an advantage. Or maybe you're developing a new project on something that showcases a skill or something desirable. Or maybe you're attending a lecture series on workforce development or social media marketing. You don't have to say for job search or for career. All of these things collectively that you decide to talk about in terms of who you are and what you do, these are all these figurative little nudges, these gentle little taps on the shoulder, a way to let them look over and read about what you're really doing and why you're interesting. So think about how you're going to build a nice mix of items just in about 2 hours of homework time tonight, because these small changes change perception. Now, you might wonder, well, 25 to 30 items, John, that's not going to last very long. Agreed, especially if you're sharing 4 to 6 times a day. So what you do is you wake up in the morning, just like I said earlier, copy, paste, share, mid-morning, copy, paste, share, lunchtime, copy, paste, share, afternoon, copy, paste, share, end of the day, copy, paste, share. And I wake up the next morning, wherever I stopped on the list, I continue right down the list, till I get to the bottom. When I get to the bottom, I go right back to the top, just like a little gerbil on a wheel going round and round. Statistically, almost impossible for anybody to see a repeat in that kind of frame, because it's not going out to individuals the way you imagine. It's going out to the network. The algorithm decides what news feeds to drop that on. Statistically, they're not going to see repeats. Other ways to take advantage of social media marketing are really sharing accolades and praises. Oh, congratulations, Dave. I see you're reading Social Media Marketing, An Hour a Day by Dave Evans. What a great book. Really got me up to speed. It's all about how you capitalize a little bit. And this is a little bit of a piggybacking technique. Be seen as a leader in this process. Be seen as the voice of whatever your field or section or industry. Have some opinion, and don't be afraid to demonstrate that. If there's problems that need to be solved, if there's things going unresolved, these are all things that you can poke at in the right share of article, book, event, and talk about and give your opinion. This shows you as a solution individual. Really, all of your communications, though, become part of social media. Everything that you put out there. So that's your messaging. That's your signature block. Signature block? Do you open up a new email to send an email and it's blank? You don't have a signature block. I don't care what kind of device that is. I don't care what program we're talking about. I don't care if it's Mac or PC. Every one of those things takes a signature block. Go into your settings, open up signatures, and create a marketing piece about yourself. Now, here's mine, ridiculously long email signature block. I have a lot of media hits, everything else. Grew up Catholic, know all about guilt. First time I'm writing this, I'm going, oh, what would my mother think? It's like, looks like you made it, John. You earn these things. This is how you have to present yourself. Now, yours may not be that complex. It might be something a little more simple, but at the bare minimum, I hope it has something as akin to connect with me on LinkedIn and include your LinkedIn address line, so that Every personal, every business email you ever send again for the rest of your life travels with your sales brochure. That's a surefire way to get people to go, oh, what was John's background? Click. Oh, no wonder he's so good at this or so good at that. Signature block is a very, very valuable way to show that really I'm the leader in my field. I am someone that's involved. I'm a solution provider. I'm really the next person that you should hire. Really, are you ready? It's your chance to be persuasive, to be a dynamo. So as we wrap up for today's session, I want you to think about wherever you are in your process of building this. Spend the 2 hours of homework to go through the articles and books and events and build that list. Wake up tomorrow morning and begin to do your share program, and realize that after just 2 or 3 weeks of doing this, which should just take 2 minutes out of your day, the perception of you begins to shift dramatically. The next interview that you get, you walk in there or walk into the Zoom, whatever it might be, and they treat you differently somehow. It's like, this is different somehow. Yes, because they've already bought into your credibility. You've already knocked a few competitors to the curb through all of this. Now, you may be thinking, how long can I use this list of 25 to 30? Probably 6 to 8 weeks. At the end of 6 to 8 weeks, I probably have to have another hour of homework. So at the end of the 6 to 8 weeks, I take a look at this list, and probably about 40% of it has to disappear, has to go away. And then I spend another hour replenishing the list back up to 25 to 30 items, which then I can again use for about 6 to 8 weeks until really I'm ready to refresh that thing again. Hope you enjoyed today's session. Now, if you found today's session valuable, I really would appreciate that like or the comment or the share. All those things help the algorithm push these videos, no matter which platform you're joining me on, whether you're joining me on the YouTube channel where I'm broadcasting, or on LinkedIn where I'm broadcasting, or over on Facebook if you happen to be watching from there. The like, comment, share, all those things really do help. So I would greatly appreciate it. If you need help lifting your career brand, visit the SelfRecruiter website, click on the advice tab, and think about not the advice tab. The advice tab is the blog, which will have a lot of other things that will be helpful to you, including the job search management system. But click on the services tab to look at all my packages, and hopefully we can work together. One last video I'd like to mention, which is easiest to find over on my YouTube channel, is the supercharging your job search. Most individuals do not have a proper job search. They sit on the internet looking at job postings. And to me, that's absolute tragedy. It's tragedy because half of the job postings you see are not real in the first place. What? They're not real because they're there based on a faulty system of how those job posting slots are sold. I used to do all the national contracts, and really, those things are sold up to 1 year in advance. So, I think you need to think about the fact that 6 months or a year ago, they had no idea what they were going to hire today. And yet they have to keep filling up those spots. That ends up with about half of these things not really being real. So I want you to think about really taking a different path. This lecture will help you put together a true, real job search that will open up opportunities and deliver interviews for you. Thank you guys for joining in today. Check my schedule shortly on selfrecruiter.com. I'll have my May lectures posted probably in the next couple days. And hopefully you have a great spring, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.